So today I woke up on the right side of the bed and a little bit earlier than usual. As I go about my day, Timu sends me multiple messages a day to get the little bit of money I have in my pocket out of my pocket and onto Timu. But I've never ordered anything on Timu, yet their marketing sends me messages suggesting that I've already spent money with them and that I can save $200 by buying $201 items on their website every day. Is that what it's come to here in America in 2025? As you know, I usually don't do solo shows because I don't really have much to talk about. The internet has kind of made us all brain dead in a sense, where even if we think we have something to talk about, what are we actually talking about? The highest level of occultism is nothing, doing nothing. And that's what I aspire to be. Doing very little to nothing. And saying it's something. So I picked up Pill Eater's book this morning, started reading it. And it's really funny. I wish I could remember the quotes from it, but I can't really. Yeah. Today, Brown's Boy is going to do a show about calling the obvious feds on the panel's feds. And I guess that's going to be a very interesting experience that I don't understand, but I'm sure there'll be some results from it. Televised apocalypse is mad at me right now. I'm in the market for some new tires. If anybody has some suggestions, I'm always open to some tire shopping advice because I'm not too good at it. Let's see what else is going on in my life. This is my impression of a Provo Kid stream in case you haven't realized that yet. I want to join the Freemasons, man. I can do the hand signs. Look at this. And, oh, yeah, I went down to the park and I saw, like, this guy and he was, homeless. And I don't see many homeless here in Utah land, but I am seeing a lot more brown people here. And being a Mormon isn't a big deal. I mean, we're real Christians. I mean, if you don't think we're real Christians, nobody's a real Christian, man. I do legitimately miss having Illuminati on panels. I think that level of crack, neuro crack energy is definitely needed because the panels have evolved into like extremely serious, non-serious conversations for the most part. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, like if these people are feds, I wish they would have more interesting things to talk about and more interesting ways to talk about them. Hey, what's up, NPC? The link is there. Feel free to join. I haven't caught your streams lately. I haven't really been catching many streams lately, honestly. But I think I understand more what you're saying about some things NPC as far as like from a synchro mystical standpoint. I don't fully understand what that means, but I do see the value in saying. I mean, in looking at things from that angle. I guess, this is for NPC because I guess he's the only person watching. I guess Brown's Boy's doing a stream on Machine's channel soon about people being feds and stuff. So I think that I'm guessing that's going to make some waves. But yeah, I don't know. I've just kind of been bored with the whole panelverse and the conversations and stuff. Like I don't know. Maybe it's just like we're in the post-truth, we're even post-nihilist. Yeah, I'm back, but NPC is gone. I wish he would enjoy, man. I still want to ask him about the whole thing. I'm gonna message him now. Let's see if he answers. Let's see here. But yeah, I'm just driving. I'm gonna grab some food and then I gotta go back and do some work. And yeah, that'll be kind of interesting. I'm gonna try to have an interesting day today. But yeah, I was watching the news. I saw the Taiwan had like a stabbing or some shit, and I found it pretty interesting. Honestly, I thought it was pretty weird that they had like a very similar style attack as some other things going on. I mean, I have my speculation as to what's going on with that, but you know, I'm not going to say it online because you know the feds might be watching the shows. I mean, I don't know, but I think it'll be interesting. I think it's interesting to see what's going on. I don't know. I mean, I'm more just fascinated by the like way people are reacting to everything. Like, I feel from my perspective, like it's the end of conspiracy theory. It's the end of you know, really history. Like nobody cares about history anymore. I don't think people even care about like really much. I mean, I think people are generally going apolitical, and I think you know, but it kind of makes sense. I mean, even myself. I mean, more this is just This is actually projection for me. I mean, I've pretty much become apolitical. Like I don't really care anymore. Like I think that political power is important, but you know, I don't even know if it's possible to get really ultimately at this point. But yeah, I think more and more people are just gonna try to scrape by. I mean, I was the thing I got from I don't know why I'm yawning so much. The thing I got from Pilliter's book this morning is basically like how, because it's really just a bunch of snippets of things that are kind of like it meant to be thought provoking. And I mean, I thought it was pretty good, but it's like he's saying like everybody seems to try to live a life like they're starring in their own movie. And I guess like capitalism is really good at like commodifying like people's self perception, so it feels like there's always someone willing to like sell you the experience of being a movie star, even if nobody's really invested, like when you watch a movie, at least when I was, when we're younger, like you get emotionally invested, right? Like it's the emotional investment. But a lot of this is kind of moving past emotional investment, right? Like, how many people are super emotionally invested in like other people's journey, right? So it's kind of like this is kind of like a journey into like I would try to say selfishness. I'm trying to think of a different word than that, but I think that's kind of where capitalism or whatever you want to call it, the economic system, whatever you want, whatever it is, I don't know, but it's just kind of moving towards a I think we're just moving towards like a selfish economy where it's like, you're the star of your own show, you're the star of your own life. And honestly, I mean, you know, it's really difficult to apply those to the way we are living now. Uh, but putting that aside, like I can see the good from it, I guess, the quote unquote good. Uh, you know, what I mean by that, I think, is it seems like people's volition is kind of going two ways. It's like people are having more volition and more self awareness on the one hand, but it's also kind of like a limiting of their will in another way. And I don't know, I'm not really the expert on these kind of things because I don't really want to like speak about this from a cult perspective. I'm trying to speak about it from like a pragmatic, practical perspective that people can look at. But yeah, I think it's one of these situations where people are more self-aware of themselves. People are more capable of processing like who they are and what they are and where they're at. But I think there's a cost of that I can't quite, you know, I can't quite figure out how to put into words yet. Uh, but there's going to be some cost to that, right? And I mean, like for myself, from my own perspective, I think it's more, you know, it's kind of like the voyeurism, right? I think that's the greatest danger is that it kind of forces everybody to be a creator in order to avoid the trap of becoming a voyeur, right? And I think that's kind of the danger, and how and why it's dangerous. Like honestly, I don't exactly know, to be honest with you, but I don't know. I just see that as the primary danger of like the direction everything's headed. Is like honestly, I'm someone who doesn't really want to show my face. I don't really want to be like a person on the end and try to help people, you know, think more clearly, I guess, and act better in a spiritual sense. I think is how I would see what I want to do. But it's kind of getting to the point where you just have to like market yourself and be a personality on the internet if you want to participate in the economy, really, ultimately, right? And you know, you don't have to do that, but the cost of not doing it seems to be getting exponentially higher, every month, every year, right? And you know, I think there's going to be a lot of hidden dangers in that, but well, it's kind of like a numbers game, right? Like if you're just going to gamble, then you're just going to gamble, right? So, and so I guess what I'm saying is like, everybody wants to be a crypto millionaire or like a famous person until like you have to deal with the consequences of like what that actually looks like, because I can guarantee you like being a multimillionaire person is not all good, right? Like there's going to be a lot of like danger and bad things that can potentially come with that, I would say, right? So yeah, I don't know. I would love to know who's watching this, and I guess I have 0 viewers now, so here I am again, talking to myself. So yeah, I don't know. Seems kind of useless talking to myself, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm not gonna beg for people to come over here or something. You know, I just think that most of what people are consuming is, I mean, it's just extremely high level propaganda. I mean, the marketing, the economic stuff, the rage bait, the what do you call it? The dating stuff. Everything is just basically like, it's just meant to propagandize you and put you into a certain state of mind. And it's not all bad either. I mean, it's just a function of living in a urban technological jungle, essentially, where real life is a part of your being, but being online is a part of your being as well. And as much as we don't like that, it's just a fact of reality now. And it's just funny because also people like kind of glorify, and I'm not making fun of this, by the way. This is not like me like taking jabs at Machine or anybody else. But it's like we kind of glorify like the primitive lifestyle, but most primitive people, I think, are kind of, you know, it's probably, I don't know what's going on in their head, but I do know that they kind of have like limited choices. It's like, okay, so do you try to continue to eke out an existence where you're kind of going to have to keep adapting to the world changing around you, or do you have to like go into the city and figure things out and speak English and, you know, join a society? Like, I'll give an example I told Machine about the other day, right? Like, I saw this video the other day of like two guys out in Afghanistan, and they were driving a car through the middle of like not necessarily a desert, but a very flat, you know, arid kind of looking place, and they had like a eagle or a falcon or something in the car, like in the center console between them driving, right? So, and these guys had like turbans on or whatever they're wearing, and it's just kind of funny because it's like these two like Afghani guys, and they're driving down the road, and it shows like multiple videos of them with the falcons. Like sometimes the falcons like eye covers and everything are on, and then it shows like blood all over the falcon, and then it shows like the falcon flying out, and then I'm guessing that's like they're sending the falcon out to catch animals and come back. But it's just like interesting, like what would it be like if these were just people like on a horse? Would they be like laughing and having fun with, with everything, like if this is before phones and stuff? uh like would they just be out there like laughing and having a good time, or like they were in the video, or would they be like more serious because this is like how they live and how they survive? And and now they're like in a car safely, like going between city to city or whatever they're doing, and using the Falcon. So they're like using like an ancient technique with a modern technique of like going down the road. So I guess like so they're like they're driving down the road. They send out the Falcon. The Falcon goes and like catches something and then flies back to the car, or maybe they pull over or something. I don't know, but I don't know. I just think that's kind of interesting. Like you have like a very ancient technique from like thousands of years ago, mixed with like the ritual of like driving down the road with gasoline and a video, a supercomputer in your pocket that you can film and send the video to the whole world to see. It's like I don't know. It's or like now they have all these people who are like farming and they're just like, oh, I'm farming and I play with my cows, but I have a camera to like watch me give the cow a hug and whatever. I mean, so I'm guessing like in sometime in the near future, maybe they're gonna have like live streaming like the butcher house where they're gonna like kill the cow on camera, and you can like pay a subscription, super chat or whatever for the people like killing cows for our daily meat consumption or something. Or maybe it'll show them like killing the bugs for our daily bug bread or something. Who knows? But I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting experience that we're kind of going through, because it is very much like, if it didn't get filmed, if it didn't get recorded, did it even happen, right? And even if it does, even if it is filmed or recorded, is it real? That's going to be the other thing. And so like YouTube is changing their policy because I guess, for example, people did a bunch of stuff where they like made up true crime videos. So they like made up true crime statistics or something, or videos, and like made up total fabricated events, and then like made a very serious looking like documentary style video with like a voiceover and pictures of the people and all this. And then people were watching it, and then asking the newspapers, how come you didn't cover this murder or whatever. And then reporters had to go and confirm that like the events had never happened, essentially. So and then there's going to be other things like that. Oh yeah, like the P Diddy thing. So people made up a bunch of false P Diddy stories and stuff, saying that like, oh, P Diddy's, so this person testified against P Diddy, like Brad Pitt or something, right? And I don't know. So this is kind of interesting. So we're all living in this kind of fabricated economy that's like, it's just purely attention based, right? So I think, again, this is why I say like everything's about being selfish. And I've been thinking a lot about how really Jackass was kind of the beginning of this kind of situation where people are desperate for attention, right? So they're kind of willing to do whatever it is to get attention, because really you can't make money without attention on a personal brand, right? And I don't know, it's just really funny too, because I kind of see these like older gurus from like the early 2000s who I still respect in a lot of ways. But they're like, well, you need to come and like learn from me now, because in the future, like it's just going to get a smaller and smaller group of people that are going to be allowed into the elite class. So like you need to build a personal brand now, because that's really going to be the only economy. And like they've grown to such a level that they don't really want to deal with like broke people anymore. And I can understand, it's like they see the difficulty of reprogramming people now versus like 30 years ago. And also like getting older, your tolerance for like bullshit goes down significantly, right? So you just want to like maximize how much money you make, and then you can hire people to like help you run your business, or like be a mentor or something. But you would think that somebody who's already done all these things would want like the max amount of challenge, right? But ultimately, that's the thing, is like you kind of become a victim of your own success at a certain level, because you just kind of don't want to deal with shit that doesn't make you money, right? And thank you to whoever's coming in this watching now. The link is pinned. You're welcome to join, or it should be in the chat, so you can join if you'd like, and comment if you don't want to join, so I know who's in here. But yeah, I just think it's interesting. Is like, if you're like the ultimate guru, right? You would think that like you would kind of get bored of trying to reprogram people who have already taken steps to like help themselves, and you would try to reach out to people that maybe don't believe it's possible, or people that, you know, quote unquote, need the most amount of help to get out of the rut that they're in, or whatever, right? And but I don't know. I think that's kind of the general direction I'm thinking in. Is and to use another quote from Pillar's book this morning, it's like you have like regular nihilism, which can have some like healthy aspects, which I kind of agree with. Like I think like Nietzschean nihilism is kind of like healthy in a sense, because it's kind of just a recognition of the reality of the situation that you're in. And then you have like liberal nihilism, which, and again, I didn't really like look that deep into like what he means, so this is just more like my own version of it. But I think it's like, well, you're kind of numb, and so you're looking for ways to not feel numb, so you're just kind of like looking for like what will make me the most money, or what will make me look for, or what will help me make the get the most amount of attention, or suck the most loosh out of the nearest person, so like I can have some feelings for a while or something, right? So I don't know. I think it's just gonna get stranger and stranger, because I don't think that many people are really wanting to do I mean, I think a lot of people are going to want to do self transformation. I don't want to speak for too many people, but I think a lot of people will want to transform themselves into a quote unquote better version of themselves, which I really hate that term. And I'm talking about myself here too. Like I want to become a better version of myself, whatever that means. But a lot of that's going to be contingent on the convenience to do so. For example, like money and all that. And again, to quote the great poet of our time, P. Diddy, I think it was, right? Mo money, mo problems. Or is that Nas? I don't know. You know that song. I think P. Diddy was dancing in it. I don't know what they want from me, but more problems we come up. Or wait, the more money we come across, the more problems we see. That song. That's a good song, man. I can't understand anything the dude's saying in the song, but that song's good. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us are just looking for the escape hatch. Like, I mean, honestly, I want to own nothing and be happy too, right? Like, I want to rent the latest computer. I want to rent the latest AI. I want to rent the best condo I can afford. I don't really want to own property unless it's like a farm, or something that you like. It really does have like a tie to the land, and then there's people that live there that want to stay on the land and like work with cows and horse shit and stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying that I wouldn't ever want to do some of that, but like, I definitely don't want to do that for a job, right? You know, a lot, what do they always say, like in the counselor stuff and, shit like that? Like, if you had no, uh, if money was no object, what job would you do just to follow your passion, right? And I think they had this other thing. This is from some movie, probably like Office Space or something, where it's like, So hold on one second, guys. I'm in line for something. I got to talk. Hold on one. All right. So, anyways, where were we? So yeah, I really wish I knew who's watching this right now. Probably somebody who doesn't like me very much. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things where it's just a strange time to be alive. The world is. I didn't feel like the world changed that much between like 2005 to 2015, really. And then in like 2016, I started really feeling like a shift happening. And obviously the big thing with 2020 happened, right? I guess Trump was the chaos magician that he was the Dark Knight, that came and shifted everything for us. And again, I'm going to put the link down in the bottom so somebody can join if they want, because I have no idea who's watching, and I'd rather somebody join if they want to. But yeah, it's a nice rainy day today. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think really the most important thing going forward is going to be like really in real life relationships, And honestly, I started doing YouTube because I actually wanted to find other people who had similar thoughts, and then with the idea that hopefully we'll all eventually do real life events and real life events and kind of talk to each other and stuff like that. And I know that some of the YouTubers around here, they've done that kind of stuff. And, I'm not really looking to join a cult, you know what I mean? So, it doesn't mean that like I wouldn't join like a good group or something, but a lot of these groups, like, it's kind of like, it just kind of seems that like a lot of people, they just join to not be lonely or because it's like feel safer in numbers. And I respect that. But, I think my standards are just a lot higher. And so again, that's not to like say anything bad to anybody else, but it's like, I don't want to deal with drama. I don't want to deal with bullshit. Like, you know, like if I'm going to deal with like super drama, like let it be for a good, let it be for like a good reason or something, not for, somebody's ego or somebody else to make a bunch of money or something. Right. And I just see that it's like, there's not a lot of people really building something that's like a legacy, right? And that's what I'm interested in doing. It's like I want to build something that has staying power and lasting power, and that you know, and I think part of that's like I need to be mentored by people who've already done it, but then also like I want to mentor people under me, right? Like, and so probably the future of this channel is probably going to be more about like trying to make money and to help other people like go date and find a woman and make some kids and things that are moving in a positive direction. Because and again, like I mean I still think that technology is all that, and I still think it's important. I'm still going to cover it, but I think we got to really reach people like with like tangible things, right? It's kind of like crypto, like, you know, probably if I applied my mathematic skills to like crypto or something, right? Like, could I make money? Yeah, probably, or and I probably would lose a lot of money too, but I'm just saying, like, it's like gambling, right? Like anybody with a certain level of intelligence, like you can learn how to gamble and stuff like that. But then it's just like you just become this like weird, obsessive, compulsive, analytical person, right? And ultimately, like, what are you doing that for other than like self gratification, right? And I get a lot of, I mean, I believe in self gratification too, but also like, you know, I really do like seeing other people have success, but at the same time, like, I do need to have a level of success for myself that's comfortable. But, truthfully, I could be pretty happy with pretty like less, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be like, I'm basically a minimalist at heart. I kind of envy those people who have like 5 t-shirts that are black and 5 pants that are black and, 5 t-shirts that are white and 5 dress shirts that are like white, and you know what I mean? I do kind of envy those kind of people, although like it's not really my nature. Like, I like to wear weird shit. I like to do weird things. Like, I like variety and novelty too. But the whole thing with minimalism is really just like making it where you don't have to make that many decisions, right? Like, you can kind of get into a flow state easier, right? It's kind of like I suck at sports. I talk about this a lot. Like, I actually suck at sports, but I like playing sports because I have a very simple strategy. It's like, okay, I don't really know how to play, but like, I'll play enough to like figure out the rules of the game, and then I'll try to cause like enough havoc on the field that people don't know what to do. And I think that that's fun, you know what I mean? But it's also very like taxing, right? It's a lot easier to play the game if everybody on the team has like the same strategy, right? And mixed with some adaptability, and so far on YouTube, I haven't really seen like a lot of game plans. I haven't seen a lot of strategy. I haven't seen a lot of like working together as a team. I mean, people cross promote and stuff, and I've talked about this with Machine and other people too. It's like, there's some of that going on, cross pollination or whatever. But I don't really see like a lot of growth, I would say. Like, Andrew Wilson's grown a lot. Jim Bob has grown as well, but I don't know. It's really coming from like these bigger channels that are obviously like tied to like legacy media or whatever you call it, So, they're kind of getting their numbers boosted, you know. It just looks kind of organic, but it probably isn't. Let's see. I'm gonna try to invite somebody over here. Let's see if it works. Let's see if this works. But yeah, I don't really like doing the solo things, because I'm kind of bored with most topics. I mean, unless somebody's really interested in the stuff. Sorry, I'm just trying to see. Like, I have a lot of conversations privately that are really good, and I'm really engaged in that. But and I always feel bad because like I feel like they should be, on like a good high level podcast or something, because I suck at this shit, I know that. But you know, I don't know. When I was a kid, we used to want to do like build radio shows, like zombie outbreak radio shows, or fantasy kind of like radio shows, like kind of like the World of Worlds or like something like that. Like, and I'm sure there's other things that are interesting. Like role play. Kind of really like live action role play, like where it's like you have like a radio show and you're doing like you're kind of role playing, like what would it be like to like they have these radio show dramas and like horror shows and stuff back in like the 40s and 50s. And I don't know, I always thought those kind of things were cool. And that's kind of the way I thought of a lot of this YouTube stuff, is like it should be kind of like that, where it's based on reality, right? But it's also kind of like improv, and it's also kind of like stand-up comedy, and it's also like something kind of interesting, like topically, I guess, right? And I just find that a lot of people are really suffering in their personal life, in a sense too. So it's kind of like, and we all know those people, and I do feel sympathy for it too. But it's also like, if you don't believe that, like if you're black pilled and you're nihilistic, like I don't think that projecting that out is good, but also like I don't think projecting out uh like total nonsense is good either. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like Jerry Springer, right? Like, is Jerry Springer bad for society? I have mixed feelings. I think it can be good for society, and it can be bad for society. And I think it depends on, where people are at. I mean, and this is the thing, is like, when I say society, it doesn't mean like individuals in the society. It means like the total calculation, right? Like, it's not really about the individuals. Like, clearly, for individuals, Jerry Springer is probably not good, you know. But on the whole, right? Like, if people are entertained by that, and people might be in their own heads and frustrated with their day, and Jerry Springer makes them laugh, and so they become like less destructive on society. Well, then I guess that's good for society, all right? It's and so, whether we like it or not, like this is the way that media is shaping things. It's become this thing where, is it easier to entertain a million people or feed a million people? Well, you know, it's 50-50 probably, because, you know, if everybody's fed and very healthy, um, only, they might start demanding certain, stipulations about what they want in their life, right? But if you feed them like 50% good, and they can kind of live a long, easy life, and they're kind of medicated with media on the other side, well, now you don't have to manage those people as much, because you're kind of paying to entertain them and medicate them with like laughter and drugs and all these things, you know. But now we're just hitting such a level where like everybody's so over medicated with media and stuff like this, that's like, honestly, like I see the positive things that come from it too. I don't think it's all 100% bad, but it is definitely, a gamble as far as like health wise, for the individual, I mean, I'll put it like this. I think that women are becoming, I think women have more potential to maximize their potential. I don't know. I shouldn't say stuff like that. I'll put it like this. I don't really like look at men that often, to be honest with you, like as an individual in real life. So like I don't really think about it that much. But like I have the impression that a lot of women under the age of like 30 are becoming way more thoughtful about who they are and what they want on average. And I don't see that in men, but it could just be because I'm not really paying attention. But what I do think is going to happen is that because men mature at a slower rate and there's not as many fathers active in their lives and not as many mentors and all these different things, that it's going to look extremely dystopia. It's going to look like an extreme dystopia because not because really of women, I would say it's going to be because a lot of men simply just don't have the guidance or um, the faith or the belief that there's really going to be anything good for them. And I don't think it's because there's a lack of opportunity. I think it's just because there's a lack of like investment in males, right? And I just think that that's going to end up being such a high cost on society that they're just going to have to naturally ramp up the um they're just going to have to ramp up the what do you call it? They're going to have to ramp up the, you know, control over men as far as like with porn and video games and addictions and all this. And strangely, like I think they're trying to get ahead of that with I think they're going to try to get ahead of that with the stuff that Trump's doing. And like I don't really like Trump, but I do respect that there seems to be some movement from within the Trump administration to at least pretend to care about men and to care about like giving men like a purpose and a way to go. Uh, I don't really think that it's real or trustworthy in any way, to be honest. But I do like that there's this kind of like focus that we're going to try to get men involved in this and that. And I don't know. I mean, it depends on what day I wake up and have these thoughts, but like I generally have like a 50-50 shot that like the people who are ruling over us do kind of know what they're doing. And so, for example, like I think they had this extreme feminist woke stuff going on. Um, and I think it's because, and I think that like it's probably not good. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that NPC. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm trying to get my kid into something like that too. I appreciate that because I'm really thinking about it a lot, and there's not an easy answer, you know. And we're all going to have to make some tough decisions. So I forgot what I was saying because I read that comment, but yeah, it's going to be a very strange time. I mean, I have to do something. 1 second. Hold on. I'll be right back. I'm back. I don't know if my audio is good or not. Probably not. Other than NPC and Denise. So if my audio sucks, just let me know. I'll try to fix it. But I'm just going to be doing this a little bit longer, and then I'm going to be busy. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's one of these things where I think women are going to be honestly probably just fine for the most part. Like I think women are pretty much going to have. I think the hardest part about being a woman right now and going into the future is like um there's going to be a limited number of like males that they want, and I think that that's going to be mostly a good thing for good reason. Um, okay, cool. I appreciate that, NPC. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, and so I genuinely think that that's going to be like the situation is like women are pretty much going to be like the hardest thing for them is going to be uh finding a male that they want to have kids with at the time they want to have kids and a family with them. And I think a lot of women are simply just going to give up and like drop out. Um, but I think they're going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like I think they're going to be generally happier because they're going to have friends and stuff like that. I mean, unless we're going to see a major society shift, which honestly we could with the whole immigration and shit like that. So that remains to be seen, you know, and I think that like the I don't know, it's going to be different for a lot of different groups. Like I can tell you this, like whites in America, you know, I I think that they're going to be okay just because like they're okay like working at like a job that's like physical and like digging a ditch and plumbing and stuff like that. Like I think they're okay with that, you know what I mean? And honestly, I wish I was okay with that. Like I'm just not built for that kind of stuff. I'm not really interested in like taking shit apart and putting it back together, and like this is not really that interesting to me. I wish it were, to be honest, but it just never has been. Like I'm not that kind of person. Uh, you know, I'm more just interested in like other intellectual things, and it's a curse, honestly, more than it is a blessing, I would say. And so it has some benefits, but it's generally speaking like it's not enviable. And the reason I bring that up is like I see like for like Black Americans, they're having their own situations that are and other like yeah, I don't really want to conflate the different groups, but it's like I think a lot of blacks are experiencing like this experience where they actually can get out of that situation that they're in, but at the cost of like giving up you know their culture or their like aspirations. And this is the thing is like I think everybody's kind of being forced into a situation where like if you want to live a certain like lifestyle, you have to kind of give up a piece of your soul, aka like a piece of your personality, right? And it kind of like whitewashes the world in a sense. And I'm kind of copying what other people have said recently, like Pinoid and Pill Eater and stuff like that. But it's just because like I think it's just an easier way to explain what I've been trying to say for a long time, which is that I think that like people are just getting deracinated. They don't really have an existence or an identity any longer, so they just kind of have to make up an identity, like a goth girl. Yeah, and I'm just gonna read the comments now because I'm a little distracted, and I forgot my train of thought a little bit. But okay, so let's see. Women today are plastic and fake, lack basic morals and simple truths. Yeah, I agree. But also, like, I don't think that it's the role of women to like have morals and truth per se. And well, I shouldn't say it like that. That sounds like really demeaning towards women. What I mean by that is like I think there's a lot of reasons why women have given up on those things. In the same way, there's a lot of reasons why men have given up on those things. But I think that like men and women have to have like a complementary role, ideally at least. They don't have to, but I think it's ideal. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of bad women out there for sure. But at least where I'm at, and in other places in the world that I've been to, there is a surplus of extremely viable women that are desperate to find someone who's just normal, right? And I would say I'm like below normal. I don't think I'm a normal person. Um, like, but but if I were single right now, I could find someone. relatively easy. I don't really, growing up, I did not feel that that was really the case for a lot of men. And I still don't think it's going to be that way for a majority of men. But I think if a man is willing to do the basics, I think it can be a great. I think it's one of the best times ever to be like a man or a woman who's looking for like a partner. Like it's not easy to find it, but I think there's better chances than ever because of the internet, but not because of dating apps. I think dating apps are like not the reason why at all. I think that's a part of the problem, but yeah. So nihilistic materialism seems to be the standard. Yeah, it's a standard. Um, our sons will have, this is from NBC. Our sons will have a surplus of women to choose from because they will be so capable. They will stand out. Our sons. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's just hard because the skills that women are seeking right now are not necessarily going to translate to relationships very well. I think the hardest part that women are having to deal with is that the the clicks and the likes online are almost always by men who are desperate, right? Like I'll just put it like this: like my entire adult life, I very rarely like a picture of a sexy woman or comment on a picture of a sexy woman or a video of a sexy woman, right? Now, the reason I don't do that is because it's just it's like this: like if you're really attracted to a woman, the last thing you want to do is go and simp for her, right? Because you're basically lowering yourself to her level because she kind of like she's seeking attention and validation from a lot of men, especially online, right? And I used to really hate it, but now I kind of get it where it's like it feels as if there's not really any other option for a lot of women. And even the ones that do have another option, you know, they're kind of grown up in this society where, especially the last 10 years, because like, you know, I'm in my 30s, but a lot of these women who are like below, you know, 30, you know, they pretty much grew up in this environment, right? Um, Based on what I've seen, like a lot of women have the same complaints. Like they can't. It's not. It's not really easy to find someone in college or work or social um, environments that are intelligent, funny, capable of like holding a job or maintaining a conversation or telling a joke or anything like that. And I legitimately do like feel really bad, you know, for all parties involved because you know it's I don't know, it's really hard to put into words. I think it's one of those things you just have to have seen enough of the same things over and over. But you know, I think that in general, like people need to try to like I'm not saying everybody has to get married and stuff, but I think like generally speaking, people are just going to do better in a long-term relationship. You know, even serial monogamy, I think, is like, you know, a good thing for most people, right? Like, you know, even if you never get married or whatever, like, I think just being in a relationship, it's one of the only ways you can grow as a person. Like, at least in my experience, I mean, I'm sure there's other people who will say, no, you have to be single and work on yourself. I mean, I don't really believe in that because I just haven't seen that happen really. Like, I see people who like stay single for a long time, they work on themselves, quote unquote, and then when they try to get in a relationship, like it's just too hard for them because they've never had to like sacrifice anything, right? um you know, they might have a lot of money because they've done that, but you know, having success in a relationship very rarely comes down to like the amount of money you have over the basic needs being met, I think. So I don't know, I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, I do think that there's just going to get less and less viable men, and I think it's just because the education system's just not adapting fast enough. And there's just not enough parents with the time and money and energy to like go and invest in like, and I'm talking about in America. I think it's different for other places, but like, you know, NPC, I think, you know, like where you're at, I think it's a lot better of a situation because, you know, in some ways, I mean, it has some disadvantages, I'm sure, but generally speaking, like you don't have to worry that much about like the safety of the kids and, you know, stuff like that. Like, you know, that level of the education is going to be good. You know that the level of the friendships they're going to make are going to be good. You'd understand, you know, there's a certain level of reliability that you have in like other places. I think in America, it's like, you know, school is kind of like a babysitting daycare where the men in particular are so fucking bored out of their mind that they're just looking to numb their mind as much as possible. Yeah, thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. I don't know if that's true, but I'll take it. But yeah, I think it's one of those things. Like I was just watching some high school kids about an hour ago. I guess they're all getting out early, you know, or like finishing up before Christmas or whatever. And you know, the kids are pretty good. I mean, honestly, like they're way more better behaved than like the kids I went to school with for the most part. And at least a lot of them are. I think if you go to the shittier sides of town, like some of the kids are definitely like wearing ski mask and carrying guns around at like 12 years old. But you know, at least the ones I was looking at and observing, like that have some potential, like to not go to prison or something. You know, they're just so bored, is what I've mainly sensed from them. Like they're not really like bad kids. They just have like, you know, they don't know what they're going to be doing in 5 years from now or 10 years from now, and frankly, they don't really care. And I was that way too. I mean, like I didn't really think about it much. I was like, well, I'll just go to college and find a career. I was like, what else can I do? You know. I think that's not a reasonable expectation for most men right now. Like for women, yeah, pretty much you could probably go to college and get a degree and you probably have some sort of job, you know, even if it's just like a barista at a fucking Starbucks or something, like you'll get a job, right? But, you know, ultimately, if people don't continue getting married and having kids, like I think the opiate effect of like media consumption and like attention seeking for both men and women, but particularly for women, I think it's going to get hard. It's going to get worse for them. And it wouldn't be that bad if there was going to be viable men to like scoop them up and say like, "Hey, now you're ready to settle down. I'm here," or whatever. I think a lot of men are kind of somewhat rightfully, somewhat wrongfully, like just not that interested anymore, right? Like they're like, "Well, I don't want a used up woman or whatever." But I mean, and I don't see it that way. Like to be crass, really. I'm not. I'm really not. Like I just mean it like in the sense of like a woman who's slept around with a lot of guys by the age of like 25 or 30, like they're not really going to have the ability to like, you know, have a long-term relationship, right? And so a lot of men with money will take those women because they're not really that emotionally available either. But there's not a lot of rich guys out there. So, you know, for a lot of people, that's not going to work out very well, right? But then if drugs and alcohol and all this other stuff gets involved, it's going to get exponentially worse. So again, you know, maybe people listening to this or people thinking about this don't care about that, but these are problems that are going to require like an actual solution, right? Because if you have a whole society of people who are just running around, not getting married, not having children, like they're just not going to care, you know, about what happens. And I think that's kind of what we got a preview of with the C-19 thing is like you could just kind of see that people are nihilistic and they just don't care. Like they don't care what happens, you know? And so they're like, I'll just put on a mask. You know, and I experienced this with myself. Like it's like at my job at the time, it's like, you know, people just didn't care. They're like, put on the fucking mask because I need my job, and you're just distracting me and distracting us from making money or whatever it is. Like, they didn't care about the truth of anything. And I used to really be upset about that and like really negative about that. But it's not totally irrational, you know what I mean? It is kind of a rational, I mean a rational response to a situation you don't have a lot of control over, right? And I think and I think this is what I was trying to get at earlier. So I guess I'll go back to that. Is like as this as the economic and technological situation gets weirder and weirder, um, people will become more self-aware, like I said, in some ways, but their willpower is just going to get more difficult, right? And again, I noticed this on myself as well, where it's like, am I really willing to do all that work on myself or on my business or on these things for like a moderate return on investment, right? Because it's very easy to like do the bare minimum and just kind of coast, right? And I think it's easy to point the finger and say like, well, you know, you just don't want to do better. I don't think that's really true. I think a lot of people do want to do better, but they're also like, well, you know, I'm gonna have to give up all my relationships, all my friendships, all my, you know, expectations that other people have of me. It is a lot more to give up than just working on yourself, right? There's some real cost to that, like human cost, like relationship cost, And I think the best thing we can do for our kids, to go back to that, is like, introduce them to cultures that are, more robust as far as like having an identity, right? Because right now, I think you're just going to see more and more people that are like, well, I'll just do what I got to do to get my kid to like get a good education so they can try to get a job and buy some property and do all the things that I did and my parents did and blah 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 blah. I just don't think that's a reasonable expectation anymore. I don't think that the average person is gonna own a home or have access to the American dream in the traditional sense. And I think that like the sooner we kind of like realize that, um, the better decisions we can make. I mean, if I were a younger man, I would definitely leave the United States like as soon as possible. You know, to be honest with you, if I could, I would leave the United States right now and never come back. Because I just think that it just sucks living here. You know what I mean? And I mean, it could be better to live here. You know, there's a lot of things about America I love more than ever. But you know, I just feel that like people are in such a daze and the haze that they don't have any willpower, right? Like nobody's like, hey, I want my society to look like this. I want my community to look like this, right? Everyone's doing the bare minimum. It's just a job. It's just this. It's just that. And I think it's going to get a lot worse. And honestly, it could be a lot worse right now. I think the truth is like because it's not a lot worse. I think it's actually encouraging in a lot of ways because the fact that it's not really that much worse than it could be. I don't know. To me, it kind of gives me hope in a sense because I think it kind of shows that people's will is I think their intent is good. I think a lot of people do have good intent. They're just kind of burnt out. I think people are just burnt the fuck out. And I think that we can't really blame people for that. And I also see that as like a great opportunity that if you can become the kind of person that isn't burnout, then you can really become a leader, right? And I think that's what people need the most. They need people that are not only like capable but willing to be a leader. And I'm not here saying like, oh, I'm the best leader ever. I can do this, I can do that. Like, I'm a very low level person in that sense, but I am definitely like wanting to grow leadership in myself and other people because I don't want to see my kid grow up in a situation that I think is coming. And frankly, I don't want to see other people's kids grow up in that situation because it's horrible. Like I grew up without a dad for the most part. And I can tell you, it's it's very difficult. And and I think I turned out I think my situation and my personality turned out a lot better than other people in similar situations. Uh and I'm by no means like doing really good for myself in a materialistic sense. In fact, there's a lot of people who are much more materialistically better off than me that grew up without a job and without these things. So it's not a one to one materialistically, but I do think that there's a hole that never gets filled when you don't have real leadership. You know what I mean? And it's like why is there so few people that can manage a business or manage a team or manage whatever, right? It's the hardest thing in the world to do. And it's even harder when you have a diverse set of people, right? This is one of the reasons like I'm anti mixing too much is just because it's so hard to manage people. But again, as the world becomes more English speaking and economically the same and ideologically the same, it's going to get easier and easier. So I think they're already working on how to work those kinks out as we speak. I'm reading Denise's comments now. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Like if I had like I'm a hard headed person too. I'm very stubborn. Like I definitely have the potential to become that. But I always wanted to be in a relationship and have kids. So like, and it took me a long time to get it too. So like, I had an irrational desire to have kids and have a marriage. So and it's definitely not for everybody. And I don't think that it's something conscious. Like for me, like from my experience, like it's not something that like I consciously conjured up. You know what I mean? Like it was a very subconscious thing. Yeah. Well, I grew up with my grandparents too, and yeah, I mean, my expectations for people have always been much higher as far as like expecting people to get married and stay together forever and all this stuff. I mean, I just thought it was like I understand that people have problems like marriage problems and infidelity and all that. I mean, honestly, I think that those problems are, you know, really they're just character building. You know what I mean? Like I think that like I'm not saying infidelity and stuff is good, but I think that people can build character with these hardships, right? But people don't ever. I think just before people never saw it that way, and now people are. That's kind of what I mean by people are growing in a sense. Like I think now people are looking at like hardship. Some people are seeing it as opportunity to grow as a human individually through experiences with other people, right? And that's when I kind of what I'm saying is like I think there's some positive development for humans right now. But for people like us who grew up old school, our expectations are just going to get crushed continuously. And I think that we just have to learn to live with that and like adapt to that because you can't really change the direction things are headed. I think. I mean, we can try, but yeah, I appreciate that, Denise. We're trying. We're definitely trying. Yeah, being a single mom and stuff like my mom was a single mom for the most part, or 50-50. But it's tough, man. It's like I don't I could tell you this: I could not handle being a single parent. But I'm also sure that like people like you, Denise, you definitely wouldn't want to like glorify single motherhood. And I think that's the difference. Is like I think a lot of people they glorify like, oh, I'm a strong single mom or I'm this or that, and it's true. Like you're a strong person, but also at the same time, like it's not fair for anybody involved that you just do this thing on your own, right? I think that's the difficult. I mean, that's just the hardest part, is because so much of the psyop going on is like just telling people that, and I used to blame people for falling for it, but honestly, like when you're in pain, you want people to like reinforce your fucking trauma and your what do you call it? Your reaction to shit, and so like I think it's easy to blame people for that, but so my start recording. I mean, honestly, I fall for shit all the time because like I want to feel good about my problems and my fucking neuroticism, as people say, or whatever, right? I mean, I think a lot of people want to feel that way, and it's you can't. I feel like people have been traumatized and in a lot of pain, and like we just have to be like understanding with people and say like I understand, like it's like degrees of it's like degrees of coping mechanisms, right? Like you have like coffee and workaholism, and then infidelity, and then you have like the hardcore stuff, which is like opiates and drugs and extreme promiscuity and whatever. And I think that like we just have to kind of like take our wins where we can get it, because it could be a lot worse for a lot of people. And I think it's just kind of like we can only really have a small tribe of like 100 people. You're never going to have like a giant tribe of 1,000 people that you're going to be friends with or something. And honestly, my tribe is tiny, so yeah. And I mean, I'll tell you, like it's so hard to raise a kid with just a mom and a dad, and even some grandparents or other family. Like you truly do need like a village of people to do it the right way, I think. And I'm someone who's trying to do it all myself, you know, as like a small family, and it's really tough. Like it's extremely hard. Like I would say it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And that's not complaining about it. It's just the fact, like it's really, really hard. Like it's because it's just hard to like maintain your attention span, especially like when you have kids older too. Like I think it's easier like if you have kids at like 16, 17, 18, 19 and you have like low stress. Yeah, it's probably really easy to have kids like under 25. I think after 30 it gets exponentially like harder because then you're like you're set in your ways, you don't really want to change. It's hard to adapt. It's hard to like learn new skills and teach your kid and have time for them and also like monitor like who's influencing them and who's raising them and who's teaching them. And you know, it's just a lot of shit and you need a lot of people and a lot of time and attention, and plus we're all like driving to work and doing all of our shit, so it's just a lot of shit, you know. It's just like a lot of shit, man. And I just don't think people, there's a lot of people doing it justice, you know what I mean? I don't really watch that kind of content. Maybe I should, but you know, I just think it's you know, I'm kind of lucky. I think in the San Francisco Bay Area, this kind of place, like a lot of people are thinking about how to raise their kids a lot. But I'm just like a low trust person. Like I don't really trust other people's judgment, you know, very often. So that's something I'm trying to work on because there's a good community of people here, but I just don't really like relying on other people. So that's something I got to work on, you know. All right, I got to end this. I got shit to do, but I appreciate everybody who showed up and listened to me rant. So we'll do this again